Everybody, it is Rebecca from Adventures in Pages, and I am back with my February wrap-up. Alrighty, so the month of February was a little bit of an adventure for me, between school, work, and, it felt like we missed an entire week out of the end of the month. I got 4 books read, 2 of which were on my TBR list from that I set at the end of January. Didn't get to the other 3, but, that's okay. So, in January I had set out and said I was going to read When They Call You a Terrorist by Patrice Concours, The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin, The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn, Rising Strong by Brené Brown, and Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. And out of all of those, I actually only ended up reading When They Call You a Terrorist and The Immortalist, both of which were fantastic, and we'll get to here in a second. But I've learned my lesson there in that I'm really more of a person who likes to read whatever they're in the mood for, so going into it with a list, I felt very confined, and that did not go very well. But that's okay. So I'm really excited to tell you about what I did read in the month of February, and without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, so first up, When They Call You a Terrorist, by Patrice Concours and Asha Bandele. And as you can see, I got a little post-it happy with moments that either really resonated with me or really stuck out to me, and to the point where I ran out and I just stopped. I could not put any more post-its on there. These poor pages couldn't probably take any more, but I'd really encourage you to get this book if you haven't already, whether you bought it from a friend, go to Barnes & Noble and get it, Amazon, your library, get it. Just, it's so good. It's really raw, it's really emotional. You're gonna need a box of tissues. If you are a person of color, this probably will resonate with you on a couple of different fronts. Depending on where you grew up, her neighborhood, Patrice Concours, shares most of her story, and her childhood experiences. Some of them mirror some of mine, and I found myself crying and sometimes having a few flashbacks that were maybe not welcome, but definitely needed for me to kind of help me work through some things on my own. But then also it encouraged me to know that some of the hard things that we go through don't have to just be hard. They can be hard, and that's okay. But they can be fuel. I know that sometimes I get really frustrated where things are socially for us in this country, and it sometimes can feel like it's too much and that we can't do anything. And if this book has taught me anything, it's that no matter how small you think your contributions are, they matter, and that you should do what you can with what you have, and that's okay. You don't have to have $1 million to give to an organization. You don't have to start a nonprofit to contribute. I mean, you could just give an hour on the weekend in your community to make a difference. And I don't know, I found this story really impactful, and I would definitely encourage you to read it. Next up, I don't actually have the physical book of this. I did this in an audiobook, is I'm Judging You by Lovey Ajayi. If you followed her maybe on the internet, on Twitter, it's Awesomely Lovey. She is hilarious. She has always been that person with the kind of funny take on social commentary out there, through Black Twitter, through really anywhere on the internet. And she definitely made a splash with this book. It actually has been sitting on my shelf for a while, and then I let a friend borrow it, and then I decided that I wanted to read it, and I didn't ask for the book back, so I just did an audiobook, which I'm so glad I did. It was so nice to be able to hear her commentary in her voice. I love when an author narrates their own audiobook. It kind of gives this feel to it that only can happen when the author narrates. So if you're looking for a good laugh, a little judgment about being a millennial, from a millennial, some just funny moments, a good palate cleanser, this is the book for you. It is so funny. So funny. And then after I finished that, I hopped into what could be probably one of the more popular books that came out this winter, and that is The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. I mean, look at that cover. Just, oof, so pretty. And that's honestly what drew me to it at first. I saw it on Bookstagram everywhere, and this cover is just so pretty. And then I heard the synopsis, and I was intrigued. So if you don't know, this book follows 4 siblings, and they, on a day in the summer, decided to go find this woman who they thought just would tell their fortunes, and ended up telling each of them when they would die. Which some people think is really great. They're like, oh yeah, I'd want to definitely know, like, am I going to live to be, 95? Am I going to die tomorrow? But we see how it really affects their family throughout this time, and how only one of them shared with the others when they would pass. The other 3 kept it to themselves, and you see that really affect the decisions that they made throughout their lives. Some were positive, some really hurt their family, and then they didn't end up understanding until the person passes. So I would definitely check it out. It is definitely an interesting read. I had to take a little bit of a break after the first 2 of the 4 siblings stories were finished. I didn't realize I could get so attached to 2 people in 13 pages, and then subsequently through each of their sections. But I did, and it broke me to my core. I put this book down for maybe like 3 or 4 days because I literally just couldn't pick it up because I was so sad about them. But it all worked out in the end, and it was such a beautiful story, and thank you, Chloe Benjamin, for writing that. So we have 3 Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. It is a series about 3 sisters who are queens, and they are raised separately after the age of, I think, 6 or 7, and by a family in each of their powers. So, for example, there is Arsinoe. She is a naturalist. There's Mirabella, who is an elemental, and then their 3rd sister, Katarine, who is a poisoner. So once they've reached the age of 6, they're put into a family that belongs with their same powers. That helps train them and helps them grow, because in the end, when they reach what's called the Ascension year, when they're 16, they have to fight to the death for the throne. And if that storyline doesn't get you, I don't know what will. I will say that I gave 3 Dark Crowns maybe like 3.5 or 4 stars because it was really slow for the first like 75% of it. But I really held in there because I was really intrigued by the storyline, and I figured that the action would come in the end, or maybe in One Dark Throne, and I was definitely right. And I think now that I know that this isn't going to be a trilogy, it's actually going to be 4 or 5 books long, it was definitely worth it for 3 Dark Crowns to be so detail heavy and so long, and for you to truly understand each of the groups. You spend a substantial amount of time learning about the poisoners, elementals, and naturalists, and what each of their powers are, some of their history, and it really helped me understand why things are the way they are, because in the beginning I had some questions when certain things were happening. So I would definitely still encourage you to pick it up, but keep in mind that it is going to be a little bit slow. When I got it, I actually bought it and then literally 2 days later bought One Dark Throne, and was so glad I did it that way, because there is a heck of a cliffhanger at the end of this. So I was so glad to be able to go pick that up, read it, and be like, holy cow, what's going on? And actually ended up finishing that this month in March, and I probably finished it in 2 days because it was so good. So that is my February wrap-up. I just realized I didn't give any star ratings. So with The Immortalists, I gave that 4.5 stars. With I'm Judging You, I gave that 5 stars. And with When They Call You a Terrorist, I also gave that 5 stars. So I'd love to know what you guys are reading. Feel free to share that in the comments. And, I'll see you next month for my next wrap-up. Happy reading!